I posted this short and I got tons of comments from people asking me why I'm letting my heels lift from the ground. And a few saying I was gonna injure myself with this terrible form. I'm gonna give you 5 reasons why you should consider squatting on your toes sometimes. Number 1 is that training your knee to go past your toe is actually good for you. There used to be information passed around that this could be harmful for your knees, but come to find out, this probably only applies to people with a significant knee injury. If you think very practically, common sense, if you have the ability to move a joint, you probably should. In fact, in my opinion, I think most people run into knee issues because they stop using the full capacity of their knees in their adult life. We have to use our range of motion in order to keep it. So if you want to have trouble fully bending your knees, then don't do it very often. In the first part of my fitness journey, in my early 20s, all I did was back squats and deadlifts. By 25, I had tight hips, back pain, and constant patellar tendonitis in both knees. And I ended up tearing my meniscus. So in my rehab, rather than doing weighted squats, I started to explore all different styles of bodyweight squats. I learned when I was young that knees forward was gonna be bad for your knees, but I decided to challenge that belief and started doing sissy squats. In the beginning, it felt like I was sinning, pushing onto my toes and shoving my knees forward. But something interesting happened. My knees and even my hips and ankles started to feel better. Now, I started this journey with just a partial range of motion to a block in front of me. I then started to incorporate knees to the ground eccentric, and eventually I did them more and more frequently and worked up to 8 to 10 reps touching my knees to the ground. This all took place around 10 years ago, and my patellar tendonitis has never returned, and I haven't had knee issues since.
While I am a big fan of the sissy squat, it's also quite extreme and not completely necessary. You can accomplish the same thing with the toe squat.
Which leads us into number 2, toe flexibility. Most people lose the flexibility in their feet as they age. Now, minimalist shoes have become popular in attempts to keep the feet more flexible and strengthen them in the right way. But what is probably more important is bending the feet and challenging them in different ways. One of the most important ranges of motion is the extension of the big toe, which will naturally happen when you raise your heels from the ground, and you'll move even deeper into this range of motion as you push your knees forward. And there seems to be a correlation in people with poor ankle flexibility also having very poor toe flexibility. But ultimately, this all makes sense. The more you cram your feet into heavy padded shoes, sit long hours at a desk, and don't challenge your feet at all, the stiffer and weaker they become. Now, sitting on the floor in various ways like cross-legged and seiza positions are great for foot flexibility. But if you challenge your feet to do various squats on your toes, you'll keep your feet flexible and you'll gain feet and leg strength at the same time. So it's kind of this 2 for 1.
But hold on. I've heard StrengthSide and other coaches yelling at me to work on my heels flat squat mobility.
To sit in a squat has helped them alleviate all kinds of pains and stiffness.
Well, it's simple. The heels flat resting squat is one of the most low-hanging fruit positions to take back and maintain your body's natural mobility. It creates a standard of ankle and hip flexibility to sit low with your heels flat. And despite what some doctors say, squatting on your toes is one of the best ways to strengthen your knees, and leads us into number 3, isolating the quads.
Now, it's funny because years ago when I had my patellar tendonitis pains, I thought that I was quad dominant because my quads and hips always felt tight. But the feeling of tightness is never a good correlation to a muscle being strong. Digging back into that period of time, I noticed that in a heavy back squat, a lot of the time my hips would shoot up and I'd kind of finish it in a good morning type of motion. And this may point to my hips trying to do more of the work because my quads couldn't. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't squat with your heels down. Far from it. Heels down squat is the most stable and will allow you to push the most resistance because you can use your quads and your glutes equally. But what I am saying is that you don't have to be attached to only doing that style of squat. There's a strongman from the late 1800s named George Hackenschmidt, and he's actually credited with creating the bench press. He also created the hack squat, which in modern days is a machine that you'll find in the gym. But the freestanding version that he did involved holding a weight behind you and squatting down on your toes. Now, I don't know if George invented these lifts or just popularized them, but what we do know is that George had an amazing physique with huge chest, shoulders, and quads, long before the use of anabolic steroids. So around the 60s, some studies came out that made people fear pushing the knees in front of the toes. But in a healthy body, pushing the knees in front of the toes will make your knees stronger and develop some nice quads like George.
Hey guys, we recently started a little way to support us at StrengthSide if you like what we do. Click the join button. It's only $5 a month and you'll gain access to some free gifts, including primal movement follow-alongs, a front split routine, and the most current, an animal leg workout, working on a lot of the concepts that I'm discussing in this video. We're excited to add more exclusive content to this throughout the year, and we appreciate any of your support.
Number 4 is that squatting on your toes is more functional to sports and athletics. In most sports, if you're caught on your heels, you're probably not doing too well. Think of ball sports like basketball and soccer. Think of climbing a rock wall or fighting someone. All of these require weight to the balls of your feet. Now, a lot of strength and conditioning specialists would say get stronger in the weight room with something like a back squat, and then go do sport-specific training to practice being quick on your toes and the balls of your feet. Now, I wouldn't disagree with this at all, but I would question if we've really explored bridging the gap between strength training and athletic pursuits. There's some legendary tales of early Indian wrestlers who did thousands and thousands of reps of Hindu squats, which are essentially toe squats, floating the heels above the ground. Now, you can argue until you're blue in the face about how much more scientific it is to use weight to overload your muscles. But building your knees resilience slowly and safely with a lot of lightweight reps will allow you to access these deep positions under control on demand. If the only time you touch a full squat position is once a week doing 3 sets of 5, that's only 15 reps getting your knees fully compressed. On the other hand, if we build up our tolerance by using high rep, lightweight squats, our bodies will gradually spend more and more time in the deep knee bend position. And I've personally found that this has great carryover into activities like hiking, cycling, and running. Number 5 is the accessibility of bodyweight squats. I'm a father of 2 toddlers, and I know what it feels like to try to get a workout in while I'm also watching them at the same time. The easiest way to do this is no equipment and something that I can do anywhere. The thing is a flat-footed bodyweight squat is pretty easy. You probably have to get up to the 30 to 50 rep ranges to really start feeling some fatigue. So if we shift the weight forward by standing on a slant board or going onto your toes, we limit the activity of the hips and we isolate the quads more. Now you hit fatigue quicker in your quads and cause some adaptation in your body. Now you may be thinking, yeah, but I want to work my glutes as well. Fair enough, but it would probably be more efficient to do a separate exercise done with weight like a hip hinge or a back squat to really emphasize the glutes and the hips. For most people, doing 100 squats in a row on a slant board or on your toes will be harder than your heels flat. I want to end the video with a few programming ideas for you guys. Number 1 scenario is what I'm currently doing. One day of the week, I do some weighted Bulgarian split squats and I do some barbell deadlifts. An additional 1 to 2 times per week, I work on high rep bodyweight squats on my toes, and I try to maintain a few reps of my sissy squat.
Second scenario is to focus on body weight movements and to work on mastering the shrimp, sissy, and or pistol squat. I'd also recommend working on a Nordic curl, the hardest posterior chain body weight movement, and a few kettlebell swings can balance out some extra glute work. And scenario 3 is for those busy moms and dads out there who just want to keep their legs in good shape despite having no time to train. High rep body weight squats done 2 to 3 times per week, alternating between one day with heels flat and the next day on a slant board or on your toes. You can blast your legs in under 5 minutes by doing 20 squats, resting for 10 to 30 seconds, and then repeating 5 times until you get to 100.
You don't want to be the person who just goes in and tries to do a sissy squat fully like this the first time. That's going to injure you. But something like this, standing on a slant, very safe way to start strengthening those knees forward.
So guys, I'm interested to know, have you done much squatting on your toes? What's been your experience? Comment below.